Okay, Shalom Chavra, here we go. We're in the Tanya, the second chapter of Tanya. We're beginning. And we mentioned the very famous idea, Nefesh Hashenis B'Yisrael, that there's a second soul. Something the Rashi was talking about before. We have two souls. If anyone asks you, pop quiz in the middle of Manhattan, how many souls do you have? So you should tell them, I went to Tanya, I know two souls. There's an animal soul. The animal soul is associated with your DNA, with your ego, with your instincts, essentially everything that's just pushing you to get immediate pleasure, to be involved in this world. We said it's called the Nefesh Bahamas because it always wants to go where? To the Bahamas. Very good, Mayor Fink. And everything to do with immediate gratification and the I, the ego. That's your animal soul. And we explained that in Yisrael that it's a mixture of toiv and ra, which means it even has good motivations, but the good motivations of the animal soul are still fraught with personal gain. For example, a person, let's say, might give charity, but he'll give it because he wants his name to be on the building. So he'll write a fat check because he knows, it's going to be proud. He might give to the Beis HaMikdash because, proudly donated by the Schwartzman, Bloomberg family. Okay, did he do a nice thing? Obviously, it's fantastic that you're helping somebody, but there was some internal motivation that was a personal gain. A person might do something nice for his wife because he knows that he likes that type of honey ribs. And he knows that when she's in a good mood, so she goes and makes honey ribs or whatever it is. So is he acting nicely? Of course he is. Is that better than trying to upset your wife? Obviously. But could you have a deeper relationship with her that you're not doing something for an ulterior motive? Of course. We know in the business world, a person might do a favor for you, but this is something that we call, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. You heard that one before? I'll scratch your back, I'll do you a favor, bro, but it's what's called strings attached. This is not just I expect something from this. So the animal soul makes a lot of deals with you that will get you to do good things, but there'll be another motivation. I'll tell you another one. A person might even do a good thing. Let's say, I remember when I was young, there was always these telethons going on, with starving children in Africa, which is horrible. We need to help them all. And a lot of people would want to help, just for the cup of coffee a day. It could help. You can basically feed this village. And I remember that I wanted to help, and I sometimes would. But the feeling is that I can't bear seeing them in pain. So if I were to help, I'd feel better. Not exactly that I really care about them, but I care about that I can't feel in pain because this is going on. Which means, if you got that idea, that's deep. But it's still not totally altruistic. It's still that I'm involved, I'm in the center of it. It's very subtle. But I can't bear seeing somebody in that pain. So I have to go help them. It's amazing. Baruch Hashem, that's great. We should try to do that for our friends and our fellows. But the idea that you actually have a part of you called a godly soul, which is totally removed from any ego identification. That's awesome. That's going to be the topic of this chapter of Tanya, where you can actually do something totally, what's called for the sake of heaven, loftier than any personal motivation, that's actually a godly quality that's inside of you. Yeah.
Is this idea of two neshamas at all connected to Rav Soloveitchik's idea of Adam 1 and Adam 2, the Hashem, Torah learning focus part of you, and then the egotistical and modern world focus part of you?
I think what the Rav is talking about is basically that you have a very pure version of something, and then a version where now you have to be involved in the world and use the world for Hashem. And what we're going to talk about today is very much related to that, is that after Adam ate from the tree, so the animal soul became internalized inside of him. And therefore it wasn't as easy to know what is the will of Hashem anymore. It became very muddled. But it became now the opportunity that I have to go into the world and I have to see a world that's not so clear, and I have to choose between, I have to go to work to support a family. It's not like bread's going to just fall from heaven. But while I'm at work, I have my animal soul pulling me in one direction, and I have my godly soul pulling me in another direction, i.e. going to work and making sure to be honest in business. So Adam number 1, that was very easy for. But Adam number 2, that's very challenging. But it's exactly the mission of that I have to go to work, but be honest in business. So part of what we're going to see is that you can actually achieve a higher level of consciousness once you now have to go into the world and to navigate a world of darkness, because now you're choosing between something that's much more subtle. You're getting pulled in very subtle directions, and you have to identify, it's very easy to be holy when you're sitting on top of a mountain. You could say it that way. It's very easy to be holy in the base medrash. But what happens when it's 1:25? You head downstairs, and the schnitzel's flowing, boys. And it used to be that we had gates at the doors. So the guys would come down and it was like, let us in. You're the same guys that were just learning Torah, sitting in the holy, the ivory tower of the base medrash. Why did you become like animals all of a sudden? The schnitzel overtook us. Somebody told me today, I learned in the mirror for many years. So they have a Schnitzel machine. I forgot about this. I think he told me a number, but I'm not sure if the number is exact. I think he was off in his calculation. It pumps out something like 9,000 schnitzels. I don't know if an hour or an afternoon, but it's like Schnitzel Machine. Just, need I say more? So even the word itself is like, how does that work? So the question is, okay, I was learning Torah all day, and then I hit the Schnitzel Machine, output. What has become of me? So in the world of Adam too, he's now in this world, but he needs to know how to navigate it properly. That segues very beautifully in. We're going to do a bit of a background all the way from Adam. So let's go back to the garden together. In order to understand this soul, this godly soul that we have inside of us, that we're going to see is totally above this world, and is able to give me a perspective of seeing the world through deep relationship, through something higher than the pettiness and the shallowness of this world. And all of free will depends on me choosing my godly soul over my animal soul, which is not so easy. Most people have never even really encountered free will because they're just making decisions between one part of their animal soul and another part. Like the Rosh Yeshiva mentioned, I'm lazy, but I'm also hungry. So should I stay in bed or just go get a burger? But I'm so tired. I'll get a burger. So is that free will? No. Free will. You think you exercise free will? Like, I was lazy, but I was hungry. I got out of bed. No, I chose to go back to bed. And I exercised my free will to just stay in bed and watch more Netflix. You think it's free will?
Powerful stuff.
The free will is between my godly soul to do something of meaning and something of ego identity. And therefore, if the choice is between sleeping in bed and coming to daven, coming to shul, or I'm really tired at night and the baby's crying and I had a long day and my wife's like, please, just can you just go rock the baby? And I'm thinking like, you're the one on maternity leave. I gotta wake up early to shachris and like a full day's worth of work, and like now you're asking me to, like, you're gonna have like chakras or anything. You can just do whatever you want. And now you ask me to wake up in the middle of the night, you're not a long day, but your wife is saying, I really need you. Can you please help me? And you have to be bigger than yourself. Is that free will? That is mamish free will, my friends. That is free will. I hope you'll man up to those moments. Those are the biggest moments in life. Where nobody's watching, there's no fanfare. It's just, you're just dead tired. And will you get up and just rock the baby in the middle of the night? And forget about it. Who knows what's going to be the next day? But you should know when you really exercise your free will and choose your godly soul, Hashem will push more energy into the system. He'll somehow, you're operating from a soul that's above the system, God will give you energy above the natural system of things. And that's why you see certain tzaddikim, they don't really sleep that much. They're sort of, you see like they're like above the system because they keep choosing a soul that's above the system. This soul is undiluted godliness. Is God limited to the system or is he above the system? God's above the system. So this soul, which is your godly soul, when you can choose this is above the system. Now I want to explain a little bit of how this soul came to be. Okay? This special soul existed in Adam. When did it come into Adam? We're going to see inside the Tanya shortly. Hashem blew the soul into Adam. It says that he was created from the earth. And then God, Vayipach ba'ap of Nishmas Chaim, and God blew the living soul into Adam. This living soul was the godly soul, the one that we're talking about now. Undiluted godliness, the chelek elokim mal mamish. A mamish, undiluted, pure, pristine, like they say, absolute godliness. And Adam, who is the beginning of all of humanity, all the souls, everything was included inside of Adam. And which means all the souls were included inside of Adam. I want to read you something very powerful from the Mor Einayim in Parsha Shmos. V'noy demasha ar b'shas. The Gemara says in Chagiga, in Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, the Gemara says that Koimas Adam Arishon, that the size of Adam, you guys know how big Adam was? Anybody know? He was misoifa oilam ad soifa oilam. He was from one end of the world to the other. How big is that? I don't know, look at the NASA Hubble telescope photo of the universe. Whatever they got on that picture, much bigger than that. That's pretty big. Adam stretched from one end of the world to the other. Now, what does that mean? Obviously, we're talking about Kabbalistic ideas. What does that mean? Hakavana bezeh is that it means that he stretched from one end of the world to the other. It means that all the souls of all the world, from one end of the world to the other, all of the souls that would come into the world were all inside of Adam. That's what it means that he was from one end of the world to the other. All the souls were all inside of Adam. And then what happened? The Gemara says that after he ate from the tree, what happened to Adam? Shenismait kaimasai, he got smaller. So what does that mean accordingly? If he was bigger, he had all the souls in him. Smaller means many of those souls got splintered away. And they fell kama v'kama nishas be'imke aklipas. A lot of those souls fell and got wrapped up in the klipas. We mentioned in different classes on the klipas what that means. So Adam had all the souls inside of him, and he had the godly soul that was blown into him. And Adam, because he had the godly soul inside of him, and he did not have the animalistic soul internalized, all he saw was a world of good. Now, there is one creature in creation who represents everything about concealing Hashem in the world. And you might ask, why do we have something that would conceal God? The answer, of course, is in order to give us free will. What was that creature, of course? Mr. Snake Man. That's right. The snake. Okay. The snake came to Chava. The snake comes on the scene. Was the snake inside of Adam or was it outside of Adam?
External.
It was external. The snake was bipedal also. The snake had very human-like features. And the snake seduced Eve. And when the snake seduced Eve, it's called Hitalba Zuma. The snake put its venom inside of Eve. There then became a mixture, which means now Adam and Eve, who had this pure godly soul, it was now mixed up with this venom. There was this venom inside coursing through their being, where it was no longer clear that this, what the snake is telling me is not good, because now this is coursing through my very body. And therefore, everyone who would be born after that would have this mixture inside of them. Adam, it was clear to him, but everyone after that would now have this mixture. He would have the godly soul, but the snake's venom would be wrapped up inside, and it would be unclear. And a person would go through their life at that point not knowing what is the will of my godly soul and what's the will of called the snake, the voice of the snake. Okay? Now, everything in the world that's ra, that's bad, is basically called, according to the Nachash, it's called the snake. The snake is the symbol, and even Harry Potter will prove that to us, because then wasn't the bad guy a snake man? Slytherin? But then he was good? Or was he? Well, you should know, is the snake really that bad? The Torah itself says that when it creates the world, it says, Hine Toiv. And then Hashem says, Hine Toiv Me'oid. What's Toiv Me'oid going on? Chazal say, Zuhi Yetzahara. Toiv was the Yetzer Toiv. Toiv Me'oid, Zuhi Yetzahara. That's the snake. Tov Me'od, very good. Let me use a very juvenile example, but it brings out the point. Does Mike Tyson become Mike Tyson through having some twerp in the ring? I don't mean as him as a person, you understand? Does he become like the most fierce boxer in the world by having some nobody, some skinny twerp there fighting him? He only becomes great because there's somebody there challenging him. That brings out his greatness, so to speak. So too, your greatness is only brought out because there's a challenge there. There's some tension. And when you fight that force, it brings out your greatest good. So the snake, he's the worst thing. He's designed to kill. But at the same time, he's going to bring out your greatest good. Okay, just to understand though the nature of the snake, in order to beat him, everything in the world that's trying to destroy you is called a snake. The Nachash is the Yetzirah, the Gemara says. The Nachash is the Satan. The Nachash is the angel of death. It's all the same dude. It's all the same idea. So then why are they called three different names? You'll like this. This is all from the Gemara in Bo Basra, on Tes Sinam and Aleph. The Nachash, by the way, Nachash is the same gematria with the Kaila of Satan. It's the same numerical value. Nachash is when he's coming to seduce you and put his fangs into you. Therefore, the middle letter of Nachash, so Nachash is a ches. The middle, the inner part of the snake, Nachash is the ches. The ches is like two fangs, coming to just like the fangs of the snake, coming to bite into you. The Satan, this is the Satan, has two things at the top. He's coming, the Satan, to report to Hashem when you do things that are not supposed to be good. So the Nachash is the one that bites you. Then he turns into the Satan, same gematria, and he puts his fangs upwards and goes and tells Hashem. The Malach HaMavis, the angel of death, is just the one that carries out the decree. So it's the same force. It's the same thing, but when it acts to prosecute against you, it's called the Satan. When it acts to try and seduce you, it's called the snake. When it acts to carry out a judgment, it's called the Malach HaMavis. Okay? This is like basic Torah ideas that everyone needs to know. Okay, wonderful. Now, what else do we need to know? After Adam ate, something happened that Tov and Ra, like we said, got mixed together. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu needed to do something. He had to separate. So there were many people who came through the generations who tried to separate this godly soul and this animal soul and try to split them. It went 10 generations from Adam until Noah. Noah got close. He was doing very, very well. But it still didn't get split off. Then there was 10 generations to Avram. Avram was the one who was able to make it split and peel off. And it's called boirer, a beer, like Hilchos Shabbos is to be mevarer. You can't separate items, sort items, which is one of the most important things we do during the week, especially as we get ready for the Messianic time. The Baal Shem Tov said we're going to go through a final birur, where basically everything is about selecting who's going to be part of the final selection process. As we know, 4/5 of Klal Yisrael did not leave Egypt. That's a little bit of like a, sends a little bit of a thing up your spine. Why? Because they wanted to stay there. They wanted to stay in Mitzrayim. And therefore, we have to be the ones that are separating ourselves and choosing to reject all that is holding back Hashem in the world and hold on to the godly soul. This is called all the birur that's going to happen. Avram Avinu, Abraham, did such a powerful separation that he was able to establish for himself that godly soul would stay with him and his progeny for all eternity. But he didn't finish the job. He did it to such a degree that he was able to have a Yitzchak, but he also had Yishmael. Yitzchak also didn't finish it, because what came out of Yitzchak? An Esav. But he had a Yaakov. Yaakov, it said, he had mitosoi shlema, 12 kids that were tzaddikim, and they were able to purify that out and separate that out, that all their progeny after that point were good. But it still wasn't the final separating out of the snake, of that venom, the detox, that'd be a good way to say it. It wasn't the final detox of that venom. That we need to talk about special detox retreats for. And all sorts of fruit juices and wheatgrass juice and stuff. But this is like a spiritual detox. And that spiritual detox didn't fully happen until when? Does anybody know? When was that venom fully pulled out? It was a great day where it actually happened. Matan Torah. When Hashem gave the Torah, it says we all saw God. It was a national event. It was national prophecy. It was a revelation. It was completely clear that Hashem came, gave us the Torah, came to humanity, spoke to a nation, gave the Torah. And that moment, by the way, we all died. Our souls flew out of our body. We had to be resurrected. And then God spoke again. Our neshamas popped out of our bodies again. We were resurrected by the dew. And at that point we said, Moses, you take over. Moshe, this is like a little bit too intense. It's been a long day. And you take over. And it says at that moment, the famous words, Pascha zuamasam, the venom fully left. Which means we achieved Adam pre-sin. However, I wish I could say that was, and everyone lived happily ever after. But what happened shortly thereafter was the golden calf. And therefore, we did have that purification, but the golden calf left a residue that we're still purifying. When will the final purification of that happen? With Mashiach, which is mamish around the corner, my friends. So get ready. Buy gold and silver. And crypto is pretty good too. Speak to Jordan. Yes?
If there was no venom, then what caused them to go back and sin and do Cheta Ego?
That's such a beautiful question. Even though there was no venom inside of us, it says that the Satan knew that basically his time would have been finished. We would have marched into Israel, Moses would have been Mashiach, and that would have been the end of the story. He made black magic and made it look like Moshe's had died. Essentially, we got tricked. We got tricked and we fell for it. We saw something and we fell for it. It's amazing. You can be deceived. The eyes can deceive you. The world oftentimes will say, seeing is believing. Look, I see it. Seeing is believing. But we know that believing is seeing. When you really know something, you can't be deceived. You see it for real. Seeing can be very deceptive. You can make all sorts of stuff and all sorts of Photoshop everything. And it makes you really believe something. But it's so deceiving. Don't let your eyes fool you. But Klal Yisrael had the most amazing, spectacular black magic. The snake knew that his end was near and did the most unbelievable light show to convince us that we needed this. And we actually thought that it was going to help us. We thought that we need a replacement for Moses. So just let's take this one step further, is that now we're in this continual process of refining and purifying as we get to the end. And the final rectification will happen when Mashiach comes. I want to just read you one thing that the Maharal says. The Maharal is explaining a Gemara in Sota. Ki hanachash ba'al Chava. Why did the snake initially come to Eve? This is a little bit mind-blowing. Sherotza nachash lahamis es Adam. The nachash actually wanted Adam to get killed. Why?
He wanted to marry.
He wanted to swoop in and take Eve. He wanted to, oust the husband and take the woman. Sheyomus Adam v'yisas Chava. He wanted to come in and take Chava as his wife, like it says in the Gemara. V'zeh she'amar kan shebisha sheba nachash al Chava shevada haya nachash mischaber al Chava. The nachash did come and was with Chava. Haya Hitalba Zuma v'toiva bechava mebia zois, and the snake put the fangs inside of Chava and seduced her, and was with her in a way that was not right, was not good. Which means they had a connection, but dark energy came from that. There was a relationship, but it was not healthy. Something was not positive. Ubishvil kach hitala nachash Zuma bechava, because he wanted the connection with her, so he put it into her. Klal ador mipnei shehaya Chava l'chibur al hanachash mitzad zeh ba hazuma min hanachash al Chava ad sheha. Fine. And from that relationship meant that now all the progeny that would come forth afterwards would have this venom. It's like he inseminated into Chava this animalistic soul. And then from that, this would be born into the children afterwards. And only those who could make a total bira split would now have that pure godly soul. Mipnei ki keneged achibur shehaya l'chava l'nachash haya chibur l'Yisrael. All of this is now that we can go from generation to generation, and we can have a pure to separate out. So, in summary, what is this godly soul? This godly soul has nothing to do with the snake. This godly soul is above the system. This is the soul that was blown into Adam. That afterwards it was connected, this animalistic, this venom, and we're continually refining and purifying it out. What you're going to see is learning Chassidus, learning Tanya especially, is so focused on reacquainting you with the godly soul. In a world where they basically just talk about your animal soul all the time, and all of marketing is just about getting your animal soul, hyped up. All of Chassidus, Tanya especially, is potent, is about activating your godly soul. And that's why if you learn Tanya, you could feel like, I'm like feeling things that I never feel before. Because it's totally arousing the godly soul. We're going to take this to the next level tomorrow night. I want to have a wonderful day. Yesher Koyach.